Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Talking Town's cricket show. Tonight we will be picking apart England's debacle in Australia. Obviously another defeat. But yeah, the chat, plenty of people in the chat. Good evening to Colin, to Lee, to the Durrants. Just a couple of things. If you're watching live or watching back when you do on YouTube, can you please hit the like button? Martin tells me it helps. And also, this is, I think it's the sixth show that we've done. So pretty early days, but we're looking for sponsorship. So anyone watching who knows any cricket clubs or local businesses or anything that want to get involved, maybe sponsor the show, help. We want to do some giveaways and the like. Get in touch with me or Martin via Twitter. So, So this evening, we've got no Terry and we've got no Grumpy Neil. Terry is at a quiz, so I hope her phone's away and no cheating. Neil is at a committee meeting. I mean, what more exciting thing would you do on a Tuesday evening than having a cricket committee meeting? So this evening, we will be joined by Brandon, Owen from All the Overs Essex podcast, Ian Davis, lofted on drive with some beautiful hair. And we're also joined this evening by a newcomer, Rob. It is his debut. So good evening, chaps. And tell me a little bit about yourself, Rob.
Chairman of Haverhill Cricket Club in the Two Counties League, despite my young years. Big Worcester fan. Unfortunate England cricket fan. I stay up too late and get up too early too often to watch. But we always do. It's the hope that kills you. PE teacher in town, and big avid sportsman. Follow most sports.
Am I correct in you told me that you're the youngest chairman in the Two Counties League?
Well, it's just a guess, mate. Most chairmen tend to be a lot older than me.
Ian, are you a chairman?
I am. Yeah.
There you go. So this is what you'll look like, Rob, in about 20 years' time.
No problem.
Anyway, so we'll start in. We'll have a quick review of the Test match, and then we've got a lot to talk about. We can talk about Root's future, Silverwood, throw a bit of Ashley Giles in there because I think he really needs to take a little bit of the blame. Tom Harrison. Then Ian's going to have a little touch on Jonathan Agnew's comments and his sort of plan moving forward. And then we've got we'll give our Ashes ratings. Shouldn't take long, I may add. All I will say, Owen, is I've got Rory Burns and Hamid. They got one, and the only reason they got one is for getting on the plane, because other than that, they didn't do a lot. And then at the end, we're going to give our 17 players for the West Indies tour. Ian said he'd picked 21. They were all Lancashire. And I think Rob's got about 13 Worcester players. So there you go. So we go to Hobart. How many millimetres, Ian, of grass was on that wicket? Because when you turn that telly on was it Thursday morning? It was Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was like green as your lawn out the back, wasn't it?
It was like a 70s shag pile carpet, wasn't it? It was, I think it was 12 millimetres, I believe.
12?
I think so. That's what somebody said. I can't believe that. If we're normally playing at 5 or 6, I know.
I heard that it was 8, but they had different sort of grass in Hobart. They were saying it's different.
That's slightly different.
So it holds up more, I think.
Genus,
something like that. Yeah.
What lovely ground, isn't it? The Bluntstone Arena. Was it 4 weeks? Ian? They said that they had sort of notes. I know they had to bid for it, and I think they bid. Was it 2 million? They had to pay for that.
Yeah, I think 4 weeks is because the guy that was in charge was interviewed, and because of the Perth situation, they knew it was going to go somewhere, but they basically had 4 weeks in which to organise everything and put the game on. So every credit to them for that, to be fair. But they seem to have embraced it, and it's the 16th. Ashes location. The 17th, I guess, will be the new Perth Stadium when it's completed and ready, and we're not in a COVID scenario.
It looked like a deck down there at the Manor Ground, didn't it, Rob? That wicket. Well, yours is not quite so green, is it? When I drive past there, it always looks lovely. And
it's beautiful, mate. Full of
England won the toss. We had them 12 for 3, guys, and we were massively on top. And I think probably 140, 150 Owen we should have bowled them out for on that first day.
Yeah, I think it's the first time actually we've had her mentioned in the post-match thing, but like a proper team collapse where both the batting and the bowling was off, and there's a real shame that the one time we really wanted the bowlers could have done something, really put us in the game, they failed to materialise. I hope it's just not down to I hope it's not down to not being able to take the pressure. You know, as soon as it actually meant something, they collapsed, and I hope that wasn't it. I hope it's just a really poor timing.
I think it was. They said, Rob, it was. I think 45 for 6 in both innings. Their top 3 made, and we still can't win a Test match.
Yeah, I think if it had been a live series, I think they'd gone with Jimmy because I think if Jimmy had been playing, they could have been 12 for 6 the way he shapes it and the conditions. They certainly showed some fragility at the top. You look at Smith and Marnus and Warner; they didn't take it away from us at all, but they didn't have anything to take away from us anyway because we just had no backbone with the bat whatsoever. So, you know, you look at it was Travis Head who got the runs, and you know you look at their lineup and think, well, yeah, if we can get to Head and get Green, Carey, we'll knock them over. But they actually, you know, they're number 5. You go Head scored the runs, got player of the series, and Khawaja comes in and gets 2 tons just to rub it in, doesn't he? So it didn't actually come down to that necessarily that top order. But yeah,
I think when you look at the series as a whole, Brandon, you look at Warner, Smith, Labuschagne. I know Labuschagne got a ton, didn't he, in the second test at Adelaide, wasn't it? And Warner got a couple of 90s. They've had poor series, really, haven't they? They've underperformed from what they've done in previous series against England.
Yeah, I think that's probably where disappointment would come from. I think other than Warner's 90 odd that he got to start the series with, he's been fairly easy to get out. Obviously, that has also come with us getting Broad back in the team, hasn't it, as well, which isn't a surprise. But I mean, Joe Root has outscored Smith and Warner, hasn't he? And he was like 12 runs in the end behind Labuschagne that come the end of the series. And yeah, I think we will be disappointed. I mean, we've had loads of luck against players like Khawaja and Head, and the reason we were so confident going into it of being able to dismiss those guys is because they haven't really done much in Test cricket up until now. Khawaja was dropped, and they were sort of didn't have much confidence in it over him or Head, and it was sort of a coin flip on which one of them got in. And at the end of it, even Harris got a couple of scores in the end, didn't he, before he was dropped back for Head. So I think we will be really disappointed. I think the biggest disappointment is, again, that we haven't been able to blow away tails as well.
Yeah.
How many times have they got an extra 70 runs, probably than they should have, with Mitchell Stark, things like that. Mitchell
like you say there, the tail, I heard a stat. I think it was before the last innings that we batted, when we got 68, which was the highest partnership of the series. Their last wicket was averaging 14. Our opening partnership was averaging 12, you know. And you had Nathan Lyon coming in there, belting our fastest bowler. He hit him out the ground, didn't he?
Exactly. And if you look at some of the stats there, Mitchell Stark has scored 2 runs less than Burns and Hamid all series combined. Burns and Hamid combined have got 2 more than Mitchell Stark. Nathan Lyon has scored more runs in the series than Ollie Pope in half the amount of innings. I thought that was quite an enjoyable...
He had a great game, didn't he? Nathan Lyon, he got the old TFC, have a little smash at the bottom of the order, catching the outfield. Yeah. Thanks for coming. Don't even have to bowl him, do we?
Yeah, he was picked as a specialist fielder, I imagine. But
look, it's disappointing. Like I think I did touch on it on here before. So Ollie Robinson played, didn't he? He was selected for this test. Was he 100% fit, Ian? I don't think he was. And I think I touched on his fitness. I think it was after either the first or second test. And I said, you look at his speeds. When he bowls his first spell, he's about, 82. Everything after that, he's second, third, fourth, are way down. And it was interesting when you read John Lewis's, I see his interview, he was on BT after, I think, was it the third day's? No, it was only 3 days. It's second day's play, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Saying, basically, that he has to get fitter. Now, I think that's... he needs to look at Jimmy Anderson and he needs to look at Stuart Broad. If he wants to have a long Test match career, he needs to pull his socks up.
Yeah, I think was it the first Test where in the first goal he was having time off the field because he got a bit of a back spasm. I think if he's got a genuine injury, I think that's a slightly different issue to the fitness issue. Although there is
a genuine injury because he bowled in the second innings, didn't he?
Well, yeah. I mean, backs are funny things, aren't they? I mean, the rumor is that there were these sort of pinch tests where they do your BMI. And I don't bother with those, as you can tell. But where they do those pinch tests, there was apparently one of the players that refused to have it taken. Now, I'm not saying it was Ollie Robinson. Nobody knows who it was. But he's clearly, he does look a little bit sluggish and out of condition because a lot of these guys now are absolutely peak fitness, and I think it is going to be something that he needs to work on. I mean, I know we're going to go on through our teams for the Windies later on. I've not actually got him in because I think he needs to go away, and I think it's something that he needs to work on. And I think with this back spasm thing, if we bowl him in the Windies and there's a recurrence of it, he could even miss the English summer. So, yeah, his fitness is a worry. But you're absolutely spot on, Richard. Is that Jimmy Anderson is the man to look at for that kind of thing. But there's a whole host of nutritionists and fitness coaches and all of this kind of thing. So the ECB have got everything in place to assist that player and to get the best out of that player. So
are you saying he should look at himself a little bit there?
Yeah, I think so.
Because they have got a lot of support staff. I listened to I think it was they had the Project Ashes podcast was on Radio 5 before they went, and they must have nearly as many support staff, Owen, as they do players nowadays when they tour.
Yeah, I know people get a lot of stick for it. They get blamed for they fail with all these sports stuff. I'm personally really for it. I think cricket needs to catch up with the rest of the sports. And I also think we should start talking about cricket as an endurance sport. It's not rather than different type football and stuff. So yeah, I think it's great to have them. Maybe not the right staff, but yeah, there's no excuse now for stuff like that. And that's that story that came out today that we alluded to about the not doing your body fat test. It's just that should be taken up the tour immediately if you're refusing to do that stuff as a professional athlete.
So we bowled him out for 303. Travis Head got his 100, and then England went in, Owen, and then it was the usual collapse, wasn't it? 188 all out. And then if you're an England bowler, right, I don't lay the blame too much at the England bowlers for this series. Maybe there was that second test, I think, when Root said we bowled too short. You've done your job. Yeah, first innings maybe. Look, it's the end of the tour. A few hours later, you're strapping your boots on again. You're getting no rest, and you're out there, and you're thinking, well, I've done my job. Why don't the batsmen do their job for once?
Yeah, it's really great to be able to fly on the wall in that dressing room when Anderson and Broad and all the bowlers come in, and they look at the batsmen who just completely failed. It'd be fast. I mean, looking forward to people's autobiographies in about 5 years' time when people have retired. Because I think, there must be a split in dressing room. I can't believe that it's harmonious in that moment, which I'm a bit worried about going to West Indies that will carry on.
Well, Broad's already spoken out anyway, hasn't he?
Has he? I didn't see that.
Yeah, well, he came out, didn't he? In I think it was before this test, and he said that I don't see why us bowlers are getting so much stick. There's not much you can do when you're batting bowled out for 140 every innings, I think is what he said. And I think Broad is quite a, he doesn't mind just speaking his mind to the media, does he? He's done it many occasions now. Like when he was dropped for the first bubble series against West Indies, he just came out and he said exactly how he was feeling. And I think that in a way, we need a coach, I think, that isn't so fluffy. I think it needs to be more rough.
Interesting you say that when you hear Chris Silverwood's comments, Rob. It was I wish I could have been a bit nastier, good cop, bad cop. And you think, well, hang on, you are the coach there. You are allowed to tell it how it is. It seems too comfortable. It seems too comfortable for me.
Yeah, well, you could argue that it's jobs for the boys, etc. But I think for Silvers, it's been tough because he's just inherited that team, hasn't he? That's not his team. That's the team that was left to him. He hasn't necessarily had time to stamp his foot on it, put his mark on it. I would say for Silvers, is there anyone who's screaming at the situation to come and take the job over? Not necessarily. So I'd give him a bit longer. I'd get behind him.
I disagree that it's not his team. He's been given so much power. Like the fact that the selection board's been gotten rid of, he'll give him complete autonomy and authority along the route to pick the team he wanted to pick to go this tour. I agree with you that there's not much left for him to choose from. I think we'll get onto that later, won't we? But I don't think you can hide behind it's not his team. He's been given so more power than generations of an England coach.
Do you think that's been a bit unfair, Rob? Do you think that's a bit unfair that I think Ashley Giles should take a little bit of the blame for this, because he's basically put all the power in Chris Silverwood's lap. And like they were saying on Test Match Special, it's say you're a player and you're really struggling, you need to go to the coach sometimes, don't you? Say, look, I'm struggling, but he's like the main selector. He's got power over everything. So
he has. And I think when I was looking at who I'm going to pick for the Windies, you look at your numbers and you go to default, you go to averages and stuff, and look at that. And you look at the averages in the county game, you think, well, there's not much of a crop to pick from at the moment. So did they get it right? Did they have the right, did they have the right players there in the first place anyway? Give or take one or two, I'm sure will come up later on. But yeah, I just flagged the whole preparation thing. That's when people have asked me in the last few weeks, what do you think? And I just think the whole rock up there, have half a warm-up game, go straight in against potentially the best team in the world in their back garden. Did we really expect anything to be different?
And why did we send the Lions home? Like you look at that and you just think, what harm would it have been to keep them there, to get into maybe at least after the third Test match? You don't know who's going to break down. Do you know what I mean? We could have had two of our bowlers come down with COVID. What were we going to do then? I just found it bizarre. Obviously, we didn't have that, but I think we were starved of options. In the end, we've had to pull Sam Billings out of the Big Bash to drive halfway across Australia to keep in a Test match, which will probably be his only one. If we're being completely honest, I think with the level of batting wicket keepers that we have, who have good records in the Red Bull game, it would probably be his only match. And if Ben Folkes was in the country, he probably would have played. And we lacked options. I think that's why we had to bring Ollie Pope back in. Why did we not just give Dan Lawrence a go? There's so many questions about the running, let alone on the pitch, off the pitch. A lot of the decisions were just mind-boggling. They really were.
What was that stat I said to you, Ian? Did they say Sam Billings had played 6 county Red Bull games in 2 years?
You did. I find that tricky to believe, because he definitely played 3 out of the last 4 in last year's county season, and I didn't check the stats beyond that. So bad preparation from me. But he's certainly he is seen as more of a white ball specialist. But yeah, he's really good enough. I mean, it's this whole debate about red ball cricket and how we develop test match players. I think he's probably good enough in the scenario that we've seen in Australia. He probably wouldn't have done any worse than anybody else. So the problem is that the bar of being good enough needs to be raised, because
it's just like Rob said. When I was picking my team, you're going through, you're looking at the county averages, and all these players are averaging what, mid-30s, most of the batsmen.
Yeah,
it was a very wet summer.
I know when Marcus Trescothick was picked, and he didn't have a great county record, and they just went on a punt, didn't they? Duncan Fletcher, like what you see, and it did work out with him. So maybe we read a little bit too much into these county averages. I don't know, but it's a hard one, isn't it? Because you'll say Ollie Pope's another one. Brandon, he averages 99 at the Oval, 99.94. He can't buy a run. He's like that. The first innings dismissal, that was on about 6th stump, wasn't it?
Well, that's just what I was about. I don't understand how so many players now are moving more and more to the offside, covering their stumps. They know where their off stump is.
Was that him?
One England player who knew where their off stump was.
Did he get ball behind his legs second innings? Was that Pope?
He did. But I don't know. as I was saying,
Stop.
I don't understand how they move over to the offside, to off stump, to know where their off stump is, but then they still play at like a 7th stump line. It's obviously mental errors, isn't it? Because they've got this technique down. Obviously, it works for Ollie Pope in the county championship, whether it's at the oval that's relatively flat.
You're facing bowlers. I mentioned his name. I don't want to just pick on him. I mentioned his name on, I think, one of the first pods we done. Darren Stevens. He bowls at 75 miles an hour. You know, when you're making that step up to Test cricket and they're bowling 85, 90 miles an hour, it's a completely different ball game. Completely different. It's alien conditions. It's like Joe Root said, I think, Ian, after that test. What was it? County players coming in. Basically, they've got not a lot of chance of succeeding.
Which I thought was a bit. I thought it was a little bit hard. I can see where he's coming from, but I think it was a little bit harsh, and B, I think the captain of the England cricket team shouldn't be saying that again about fellow professionals in the county championship. That's just my view. And certainly what Brandon was saying there about getting on this sort of off stump line, it's to try and cut down on LBWs and give access to the onside. So I sort of get that. But obviously, the quicker the bowling, the more difficult that is to do. But you're absolutely right. Why are we sort of swinging at balls on 6th, 7th stump? The thing is about the pace. Boland came in. He's not express, but he puts it in the right area and he bowls the right line. And it's the line and the length for me that's the key, because we all know really quick bowlers who don't do much with it and spray it around a little bit, and you can put up with that because you know a bad ball's coming. It's the Glenn McGrath type bowlers, the Boland bowlers, the Chris Rushworth at Durham is another one. He'll put it there or thereabouts all the time. I'm not saying he should be selected for England. He probably couldn't do any worse, but it's where we're putting the ball. It's just, you know, we weren't bowling the right lengths, then we were bowling too short, then we bowled too full for a time. And you were talking about the coaches before. Silverwood is a bowling coach. And then who they got with them? They've obviously got John Lewis, and they brought in Troy Cooley as well prior to the tour. So I think we think the bowling's done okay, but they've had reasonably good coaches around them. But they've still made errors and not bowled as well as we'd hoped.
Who's picking up Scott Boland then over here in the season? Because he's going to come over here and he'll pick up a shed load of wickets in the county game.
His phone's been red hot, apparently.
Get him opposite Darren Stevens. My God. Teams won't get over 10, will they?
You get off the square, would you? So, look, I'll go through the totals that we scored. 147, 297 in Brisbane, 236, 192 Adelaide, 185, 68 at the MCG, 294, 270 for 9 in Sydney, 188, 124. Who wants to comment on that? Because that is just a shambles.
Probably goes without comment, a list of numbers like that.
I think what the disappointing thing was in terms of them, they all had, well, the majority of them had partnerships in them, which after that partnership was broken was followed by 4 or 5 wickets within 10 overs. And when you're having that amount of batting collapses, I mean, Virat Kohli came out, didn't he, after one of the test matches against South Africa, and he said, we're collapsing far too much. You've seen India's scores compared to us in 2021. My God. But, I think, and the other disappointing thing was once we finally got it right at the top of the order and actually got a partnership on, we decided to collapse after that instead of collapsing early and trying to recover it in the middle. But
there's only once, Owen, it's funny you say that, Brandon, only once since 1908 have England lost all 10 for 56 runs. And that was at the Oval in 1948. But this is the fifth time in 4 years that we've lost 10 wickets for less than 65 runs. This isn't just a one-off, though, is it?
No, and then that's where the problem is, isn't it? And once you get to points where where you're collapsing, I think you have got to take it away from the actual,
You'd be getting dropped to the
part of
seconds, wouldn't you? If you're playing for Harwich, you'd be getting dropped to the seconds, wouldn't you? You wouldn't be getting picked for the first team if you kept collapsing like this.
I think a lot of people were picked for the first team by default last year, so I hate to comment. But no, I think it does come down to poor mental strength when you have this amount of batting collapses, because you're coming in, you've just lost two quick wickets, and then you're just bottling it, aren't you? You're wafting one outside off, and no one has been able to get in there, see out a tough 10 overs, and just stop a collapse. No one's been able to do that, and I think that's where our problem is, and that's what a weak middle order does, isn't it?
So we'll talk about the second innings debacle in a minute. Let's just touch on Mark Wood, Rob, because he's been our one shining light for this series, and I think he really deserved them 6 wickets, didn't he, in that second innings? He's running all series. I said on the last show he's stayed fit, which I've liked, and hopefully going forward he can be part of the bowling attack. I know he's a bit injury prone, but hopefully he's got over that, because he's so enthusiastic. He just puts everything into it. And they said he's even loved by the Australians.
Yeah, absolutely. He, lest we not forget, he was 0 for 74 in the first 10 overs as well on day one.
I was actually going to tweet on Thursday morning, I probably wouldn't have picked him on that wicket. So that would have looked a bit silly when he's taken 9 in the match. But
there you go. So, 0 for 74, and then just bowls with absolute heart, doesn't he? He's a sort of people's champion, isn't he? He was potentially our player of the season, but he did that. He sang Jerusalem, didn't he, last summer? Just stood up in the top of in the stand, didn't he? He's dare I say it, he's a sort of cricketer. He's people like us. We like I think he might have even been state educated as well. He was a proper lad, and people can associate with him. Runs in, bowls as quick as he can, heart on his sleeve, bats. Like the way he bats as well, just whacks it, gives his heart, gives everything. Yeah, and people get around that. Can we build a team around him bowling? Well, I just can't see him bowling, more than 3 games in a row. The way he plays his cricket, can he play? Can he play week in, week out? I don't think so. I'd love it if he could. He is fit, far fitter than Robinson, as we touched on.
Still batting a place too high, Ian.
I knew he was going to say that. Well. In the lineup that we had, I don't think he was.
Yeah, it's probably not his fault, is it?
There was a lengthy tail that came after him. I think that's a concern, and it's interesting you mentioned the tail, because as the guys were talking there just earlier on the call, the Australian tail has wagged quite often, but they've got the confidence to do that. They're coming in. There's runs on the board, and they're trying to score quick runs. There's a game plan there. They know what they're going to be doing, and they do it with confidence. Whereas we go in and we're a bit scratchy and rabbit in the headlights. So the tail is a problem. Mark Wood, as you're talking about there, I mean that was it 39. He got some magnificent shots there. So he can do it with the bat as well. A few disappointing dismissals from Wood and everybody else. Some of the dismissals have been atrocious, but he's there to knock people over really, rather than bail the batsman out with the willow.
What's your man Parky like with a bat? He's a bit of a rabbit, isn't he? He would probably lengthen the tail, but he'll be in the lower echelons of the batting order.
He might pip Jimmy for number 11 from what I've seen.
Yeah, he's pretty ordinary, but he spins the ball. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you pick your bowlers to bowl, don't you? I don't think you should be relying on your tail scoring runs. I think where the problem is that our tails are coming in, having to outscore the top 5. Our bottom 5 have to try and outscore them to become competitive. So,
but it was that 1-2-4 all out second innings. I don't think did it really surprise anybody on here that we collapsed like that. I think at the end of a tour, a lot of them are probably wanting to go home.
The hope kills you, though, doesn't it? The hope really does kill you when you're 68 for none.
But it's like Owen said, what was the sort of dressing room like between the bowlers and the batsmen? They're not going to be happy. It's probably it didn't surprise me. Look, they were 68 for naught, and then we lost 10 for 50. But it didn't surprise me. I agree with you, Ian. The manner of some. It's like Ollie Robinson. If you've got a bad back, don't go out to bat, but get yourself in line. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm. He certainly doesn't cover his off stump, does he? If he's backing off to standing on square leg umpire's foot occasionally.
He scores some runs for Sussex as well, doesn't he? Doesn't he bat 8 for Sussex, and he was classed as an all-rounder at one point. So it's hard to believe that when you see him bat for England, isn't it? But
it's the application, and it's that mindset. You've got to bat according to the circumstances. I mean, yes, it was so predictable, that 124, but it was absolutely awful to watch, and it's unacceptable. You know, it might be, it's the end of the tour, and it's all this, that, and the other. It's the last game, and they wanted to get on the beer with Nathan Lyon by the looks of Graham Thorpe's
We'll
video.
talk about that in a little while.
But they've still got the shirt on. It's not just a knockabout. You know, it's not a end of season game in the league where there's nothing to play for. There's a little bit of pride there, and there's a lot of people who spent a lot of money to go out and watch that game. So if they're going to go and play like, you know, clowns, I think it's unacceptable. And the leadership should be nipping that kind of thing in the bud, because if that's the attitude, then that has to stop, because it's just not acceptable to say, it's the end of the tour. You fight right down to the last ball. I'm sure the guys do on here in league cricket, so it should be no different for Test cricketers. They should be setting the example.
Talk about leadership. What were you all thinking of Joe Root's future as captain? Then, Rob, we'll start with you.
I think it's a little bit similar to the coaching situation. I think Joe says he's keen to do it. He's done it for a long time. What did he call himself a few years? A craptin. He did label himself that, but is he the right person at the moment? Stokes would be my only person I'd pick to do it, and he came out, didn't he, a couple of weeks ago, saying I don't want to do it. Do you look at Alex Lees, who captained the Lions, and just go a bit cowdry on it and just bring him in out of nowhere, or do you give it to Broad because he seems like he's got a bit of a backbone and got a lot to say, and go and back it up, Stuart?
What do you think, Brandon?
I've seen Stuart Broad captain us in T20, and I
he
didn't
captain
think...
when we lost to Holland?
No, that was 50 over, wasn't it?
No, that was the T20 World Cup.
I thought Tendo scored 100 and it was 50 overs.
No, when it was over here, T20, when Ben Scott got some runs at the end. I think he was captain then at the 2020, weren't he, Ian? I'm pretty sure he was.
I think Peter Boren might have been the captain for Holland.
Oh, blimey.
Good knowledge, Jack.
There you go.
Like that.
Would you keep him? Would you keep him, Brandon? Would you keep Root as captain?
I would keep Root.
By default, is it by default that he's going to be captain, that there's nobody else? And should that matter? Should that be, Joe, you're going to stay just because there's no one else?
The only two players, it is by default, because I think the only two people who will be playing week in, week out, if they're both fit at the moment, for certainty, is him and Ben Stokes. And I think Ben Stokes is your match winner. He's not someone who should have the burden of looking at absolutely every ball being turned on. You want him to bowl a quick 4 overs to make an impact with the ball. You want him to go out and bat and just think about batting at that point. You want him to think about creating chances in the field, which might not be chances for other people. You don't want Ben Stokes having the burden of, I need to bat, I need to bowl. Who should I bring on to bowl?
Talking to Stokes, Brandon, start talking to Stokes. Do you think he should have played in this Test match? I don't think he should have done, because he couldn't have. He wasn't 100% fit because he couldn't bowl, and we need to wrap him in cotton wool. Look, the series had gone, and I know he'd probably say, "Look, I want to play, Joe. I want to play." Should have took it out of his hand and said, "No, look, go away, get yourself fit for the 3 Test matches in the West Indies." There's no gain in this Test match in playing.
I think I would have played him, because I can imagine out of the 11 that started and all the players on the tour, only 4 players probably wanted to play that Test match. It was probably Ben Stokes would have put his hand up and saying, "I'm playing this Test match." Mark Wood would have put his hand up saying, "I'm playing." You have
to take that out of his hands, though, sometimes, and look after him. Is that why he gets injured so many times?
If he's fit enough to bat, then pick him as a specialist batsman because we haven't got anyone any better than him. I was really upset when Johnny Bairstow couldn't go. I heard that in the week he was training, he was batting fine in the net, but every time that he was fielding the ball in field and practice, he was wincing and screaming expletives and all sorts. And that was upsetting, wasn't it? Because I think Johnny Bairstow is also one of those characters that would have wore his heart on his sleeve and went out there and given it a go. But I think too many players' heads were already on the plane home. I mean, Milan, I suppose, had a reason for it, didn't he? The fact that before he went out and batted in the last innings, he missed the birth of his firstborn the night
6
before.
weeks early. 6 weeks early.
Yeah, I imagine that he was quite. He was probably sold it to his wife that he was going to go to Australia. I'll be back for the birth. It's fine. It finishes 5 weeks beforehand. But
that's another delivery you missed then.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Not wrong. But I would have played Ben Stokes because I think that you think about how fragile we would have been without someone like him in the team. I think looking at him gives other people confidence, and when you're lacking in confidence, and the dressing room must have been so distraught already, I don't think you want to drop someone like that.
When you look at the stats, though, he's had a match him up to Cameron Green. You know, someone who's just making his way in the game. There's no comparison. Batting wise, yeah, he did get a lot more runs than him, Green, but bowling wise, he did. Stokes got 4 wickets at 71.5.
After 2 games, though, he was taken out of the all-rounder category for the series, though, wasn't he? So I think if you're looking at that, you are looking at him, and really you should be comparing him to Travis Heads and Khawajas and their middle-order batsmen rather than Cameron Green. Just in the terms of how our team was made up, he wasn't really looked at as a bowling option after he broke down. I think we were quite. Our plans with him to bowl in the series were stupid anyway.
Well, we spoke about that on the last show, didn't we? When he was bowling that spell around the wicket, and then he goes and gets a side strain. And this is what I'm saying about Ben Stokes. They need to look after him. He's our crown jewel. That's probably another reason for me why he wouldn't be captain, because he doesn't play all the games because of his fitness.
But I would pick him as a majority. I would pick him as a batsman going forward, and you just have to sort out some bowlers who can bat a bit, or vice versa, to try and extend your bowling options. But yeah, I think that's something that we need to look at, and we can't always rely on him at being our 3rd or 4th seamer or however we pick him, because we can break down any game, can't he?
Joe Root, then, Owen, are you keeping him as captain?
It's a hard one, isn't it? I think it's like my work life. I think a lot about psychology of leadership. I won't bore you to tears with all that stuff. But like, I see someone there who just can't lead anymore. I don't see how you can go from this series and how it's collapsed and probably one of the worst performances ever. People talk about the 90s. This is way worse than the 90s. And then to go, oh yeah, I'm going to lead a team into battle against West Indies. And if you fail then, that really is failing as a struggling West Indies. But on the other hand, as you guys have just talked about, who else takes over? I can't think of anybody that springs to mind. There's very, very few people in the holding the setup of any sort of captaincy experience can step into this. It's a huge job, and I think we need to. I like the idea of actually having Lees as captain. I think, start afresh. Look back on fresh young captains in the past, like Graham Smith in South Africa, how well he did, and then obviously Michael Vaughan 20 odd years ago, and how he just transformed the mentality. And that's what we need, but I don't think we've got anyone that can do it, unfortunately.
I think it's very hard when you say about Graham Smith and Alex Lees, who's never played Test cricket. I think coming into the team and you're saying to him, you're going to be captain as well. I think that's a massive burden on his shoulders, or whoever.
Graham Smith was 20 years old, wasn't he, when he was captain?
Yeah, but I think he'd already played, hadn't he? And he'd played some Test match cricket. I don't think he was just thrown in at the deep end as captain as well.
It's a tough one, chucking somebody in that's not been proven as a player at Test level. I'm wondering if Mike Brealey's still got his whites.
There's a good point there from Mike D on the screen. Who in our side gets into the Australian team?
Joe Root.
That's it. That is probably it.
Anderson.
I wouldn't touch their Australia. I wouldn't touch their bowling attack. I think they've got a perfect balance, to be honest. And their depth for their bowlers is getting really worrying, considering that Jai Richardson came in that pink ball test, bowled unbelievable, and then you know, we don't need you, mate. We'll pick up Scott Boland for his debut, and then he'll come in and look like the next coming of Glenn McGrath.
I think Milan gets in, Ian, as a second spinner for Aussies.
Well, you know, it's they'll be bowling down a few pies or patties on it if it's
leg pies.
Didn't get to turn his arm over this test, did he? What a shame.
No, he was obviously that's what's lost as the test. He was savagely underused as a bowler.
How come Australia's blips are so short compared to ours? When their whole squad dipped, so like after the great Northern noughties, a few months later they were back up to a world-class standard, whereas our collapses last a couple of years. I don't what's going on in our system. We can't repair ourselves like the Australians do.
But then you say that they still haven't won. That'll be 20 years when they come over here the next time since they've won a series in England. I know the last time it was 2-2. The difference I see is we've lost 13 out of 15 in Australia. When they come over here, they do compete, don't they?
Yeah,
I think we can all probably say we just don't compete when we go. Not just this series. You just got to look at the figures. Since 2010-11 we won. The last time before that was 86-87 under Gattin. When was, we don't compete. We get absolutely hammered. Anybody?
Well, it's the fact, isn't it? I mean, it's what we all wanted. I think everybody, including Australian fans, both here and in Australia, wanted it to be a fiercely contested competition with good Test cricket. As we said on one of the previous shows, it's less partisan than football. We want to see good cricket, but we want it to be a contest. And it was just too one-sided.
Also, Ian, weren't you surprised how nice it was? They were just so friendly to each other.
Yeah, well, I think the Australians had been in a little bit of bother in the past, haven't they, with things that have been said on the mics.
True.
And pushing and shoving in South Africa, in corridors and upstairs and things like that, and Warner, and it's not the example that they should be setting. Certainly not in Australia, where you've got the Prime Minister, and then the next most important job is the captain of the Test side. So they've got to be setting an example, because we don't want youngsters seeing that and then doing exactly the same. Because David Warner shoved somebody down a flight of stairs, I think I can get away with it. So I was pleased that it wasn't played in a nasty manner, because I think there's too much of that in the game. But you do your talking with the bat or the ball or the keeper's gloves or in the field or whatever. All this big talk and this, that, and the other. I think that's where Tim Payne fell down. Well, apart from his
obvious
text messaging, but he was just annoying. Wade was another one, and I think Australia are trying to get away with that. They're trying to get away from that sort of negative mentality.
I think Pat Cummins seems like a really good guy as well, doesn't he? I think.
Yeah, I think I'd be a good guy if I bowled at 145 and batted and had that lineup behind me. I think they were able to be nice because they knew they had it in the bag from the first ball of the first game.
Disagree with that. Did you see Rob the message he sent to Sam Billings on the eve of the test? He sent the scorecard.
Yeah, he sent the scorecard.
Was it in grade cricket when he played with him?
Yeah, I can't remember the game. I did see it.
Sam Billings got a duck for everyone who's watching, and Pat Cummins was 100 not out. I just thought that was quite funny. So Sam Billings, you touched on it earlier, Brandon. Do you think he'll play another Test match for England? I'll start, and I'll say no. One off. That's it.
I don't think he'll play again. To be honest, I don't think he done a bad job in this game. I liked how he sort of conducted himself in the field. I think that sort of shoot more so what Butler needs to do more of, like the constant chat beyond the stumps. Batsmen don't like that. In club level, I absolutely hate it when there's a gobby keeper. I just want to turn around and hit him with my bat. But I thought he was brilliant, and it wasn't nasty what he was saying. It was encouragement. It was banter, as they'd say, and I think he batted quite well in the first innings. And as I said,
But
he just
what's-
conducted
You
himself
say
well.
batted quite well. This is what annoyed me. I was listening to
Well,
TMS.
in terms
and I
of
think
compared to
they were
everyone
doing
else.
their review of the day, and they said he got a nice 30. That's the problem. We score nice 30s. That's never going to get us anywhere in Test cricket, is it? I know it's his first game.
So I think he's a little bit unlucky in the sense that one thing that we're not short of options with the gloves. I think he was lucky, I suppose, in the sense that we were short of people with the gloves in Australia at the time of this Test match. But I don't see him playing again in red ball cricket.
Owen?
Given Wesley was given 5 chances, I would be a bit harsh if Billings only gets 1. But I do agree with Brandon with the gloves thing, although I do think that the mistakes that Bairstow and Butler make behind that as not proper wicket keepers, they do cost us Test matches. So it'd be nice for us to go back to more old-fashioned Test matches and bring a more effective keeper in, but I'll go for Folkes rather than Billings.
Yeah, I think we all probably agree on here that probably Ben Folkes deserves a run in the team.
Billings doesn't actually keep in red ball cricket for Kent either, does he?
Jordan Cox.
Yeah, so that should be that underlined. If we're going to pick someone who doesn't keep in red ball cricket to keep for England, I don't get it.
Have you got in your squad Ian as your wicket keeper? You ain't got the Lancs keeper in yours, have you?
It's interesting, actually, the conversation that we've just had and the previous conversations. And I know that a lot of us were talking about Folkes, and he's the best keeper, and that was what I would have said. However, I heard an interview with Paul Fairbrace, whose wife is Sandra, who happens to be Ollie Robinson's mum. Just thought I'd put that fact out there. So, maybe Paul can take Ollie in the back garden and do a bit of batting with him. But there was a conversation, and he was saying it was fascinating, and it was going into the mentality of certain players. And one of them was Bairstow. And I know that you, Richard, had said, that he gets bored in the field and all of this kind of thing. And Fairbrace was saying that if he does both, if he keeps and bats, and this goes totally against what I said on the last pod, so I hold my hand up, that he can focus more by splitting those specific skills. And it means that if he doesn't do so well in one, he tries to exceed in the other one. And he was saying it was better for his concentration. So in a massive U-turn, I'm going to give Bairstow the gloves for the first test, but with a view to using the tour to the Windies as a bit of a trial. I wouldn't have the same team in all 3 tests. I'd mix it up because I think we need to focus on the summer. I think whichever side that we can put out, sadly, I think we'll probably beat the West Indies with whichever team. I'm saying that quietly in case people overhear me in this house. But I would really use this as a starting point from where do we go. We're not going to know if people are good enough if they don't get an opportunity.
I do agree with you there, because I think too much emphasis is put on we've got to look ahead to the Ashes in 2 years' time. We need to focus on the next series.
Every game. Yeah, absolutely.
Don't look too far in front of you. It's like Broad and Anderson. They should really I'm probably going to do a U-turn here because I said they shouldn't really play together. But I think if they're fit and they're your two best bowlers, they should be playing in every test. It doesn't matter how old they are. We need to win test matches. The record we've had over the last 12, 18 months is horrendous. We need to start winning games. We can't keep losing. And like I said before, we're always normally quite strong at home, Rob. But now we've started to lose series. We lost to New Zealand over here. We lost to India. I know there was COVID, and that last test is going to be played again this summer. But that's the alarm bells. It should be the alarm bells for the ECB and thinking, hang on, look, a lot of teams struggle around the world when they go on tour. That's just how it is. But when you start losing your games at home, and we're lucky. I think someone put in the chat there a while ago about the crowds in Test cricket. We're lucky in England. because trying to get a ticket for Lords, I don't know if you got one in the ballot, Owen. I know you're in, but it's tough, isn't it?
I would say I'd always just look at it and go, well, actually, we lost to New Zealand and India, but they also contested the World Test Championship, so they are proven to be right up there as two of the better sides. I just go on the wicket keeping. I would say Folkes all day. He's had to, we probably picked him back in Sri Lanka and he did well, and then he never quite got the look in. I'm Butler's biggest fan, but it's time for a change, and we need to get all over Folkes and just back him. And he will score runs. He'll just be gorgeous with the gloves. Just we'll get behind him. And
he can stand up to Ollie Robinson, can't he, when he's bowling 72 miles per hour?
Well, he can if he's in your...
Or off spin.
Yeah.
Which he did. Right, so should we do our Ashes series ratings? We'll start with the new boy. We'll start with Rob, then we'll go Ian, then we'll go Owen, Brandon, and then I'll finish off. So,
do you want to shout players at me, and then I'll come back to you?
Yeah. Rory Burns.
2. One of those marks was for the hair.
Oh, what great!
Mark down.
I'm giving him one for the salad.
Where was the dive though? Where was the dive, Rob, in that first innings when he's going to get run out?
Mate, if that's me, I'm absolutely diving because you've got to value your wicket a bit more, haven't you? You know you're in the poo there, but you've got to put the dive in, haven't you? Yeah, absolutely right. I'll give him it 2 because he got my hopes up Sunday. We were favourites in that game for about 20 minutes. We were faves.
20 minutes.
5 balls, I think it was.
We were all watching it, weren't we? We were all, thinking. Go on.
Winviz. Did we get to 50% once, Siri?
52. 52. Yeah.
We were. It took us the last innings of the last Test match to be favourite to win a game, and then we got bowled out and lost by over 150.
Well, if we'd have bowled about 450 in the first innings, which we should have done, we probably
would have lost still.
Yeah, probably by about 2 runs. Hamid, what are you giving Hamid?
2. I feel sorry for him. I really do. I think we've messed around with his technique a bit too much, and just he should have just batted. He should have just played, but he was back to everything. He was playing back. And he just I've crossed him off. I wanted to take him the Windies, but I've crossed him off in the end. But I like enough about him. He's a proper opener. He looks like he wants to bat all day, like a proper opener. He hasn't had a test in England. I want to give him a test in England. He doesn't quite make my side moving forward because I've got a few changes.
Did he get back in? Just a quick one, Ian. Did he get back in by default, sort of when Dom Sibley he sort of went off the radar, didn't he? Because they were saying he probably... This is where I'm saying about they're looking ahead too far to these tours and planning. He probably wouldn't have been in that Ashes squad if it had all gone to plan.
Possibly. Can't disprove that, but I believe that he got in on merit, doing a lot of work with Peter Moores at Notts. And there's people know what's sort of going on. There is a community of the coaches, etc. And according to what we were hearing, he was doing really well, and his numbers and performances would probably warrant his selection. But albeit if Sibley was getting tons and not, and not failing the way that he did, then possibly you're right. But
I've actually gone back to him for the Windies. I've actually gone back to Sibley. He's in my squad. There you go. Probably not in yours.
Not unless he's signed for Lancashire in the last hour.
Right. Zach Crawley.
4.
Only a 4.
He did. I don't know. I haven't got it written down what he averaged, but he
got 166 runs, 27.66.
It's not tearing it up too much. He stitched himself a little bit with that comment about how he was going to get a ton, and you could hear them on the mics going at him a little bit for that.
True.
He looked okay. He looked good, but I'm not interested. I can't get too far behind someone averaging 27. It's it's a bit not good enough.
David Milan.
6. What do you get? 2 80s? And then
2 4 runs. But then he's only averaging 24.4.
Yeah, he went missing, didn't he, after second test? Didn't do a lot.
Would you pick it? Is he in your squad for the West Indies?
Yeah, because technique-wise, he's got a solid technique. He looks like he could bat for a long time. And he's got a bit of age on his side, a bit of maturity, and he is our number 3 for a period.
Doesn't make mine. Joe Root.
6.5. 6.5. What did he average, Rich? Sorry, I haven't got it in front.
Just over 32.
Yeah. Again, started well.
Still struggling for that. Looking for that 100, isn't he? Elusive 100 out in Australia.
Yeah, looking for the 100 in Australia.
Will he make it in 4 years' time? Do you reckon he'll be there in 4 years' time?
Absolutely. He's fit as a fiddle. He loves it. He's one of the best, probably 3 or 4 players in the world. Handy off spin as well. If he's got people around him, if he's not coming in at 12 for 2 every week, if he's coming in like Smith or Head, 100 for 2, 100 for 3, it's different. It's a completely different game. So
I think Root might be retired in a couple of months' time, considering how the ball just homes in on his nether regions. Poor guy.
He wasn't getting it there in that second innings with that one. It went underground, didn't it? Jeez.
Yeah.
Ben Stokes.
4.5, 5. I'm a little bit worried now that Stokes is turning into a bit of a Flintoff in that he's a bit of a people's champion, but he hasn't really, we're talking test matches exclusively. You talk about Headingley, of course, absolute one-off. You talk about the ton against New Zealand, I think, at Lord's, quickest 100. Lots of sparky, beautiful moments, but lots of underachieving. I'm actually giving Stokes the West Indies tour off. I'm saying go home, rest, come back stronger.
Not a bad shout. Do you think he's on the way down, Rob? Do you think we've seen the best of him?
No, I think he is trying to evolve and recreate himself. I think he made quite a lot of technical changes to how he's going about it. I really enjoyed him sort of coming down the track at them, just trying to do, rather than just standing there like a sitting duck like the openers. He did actually try and do stuff, like he was trying to manipulate it and do it. He got out a couple of unfortunate ways and got out to a few good seeds early. First couple of tests, he got out to good balls because they were the one he really wanted along with Root. Bowling wise, he stopped bowling, didn't he, after about the third test? Didn't pick up many wickets. I'd love him to be captain, but he doesn't. He don't want it. And if you don't want it, then so be it. I think somebody made the point earlier about he's your talisman, he's your match winner, leave him to it, and I get that. But he didn't quite deliver. Did he? Kept every time it was Root and Stokes together, which seemed like most innings, you just thought, come on, boys, here we go. But they never really had that partnership at all. So. Not great from Ben, I'm afraid. He didn't look fit. Certainly in the last test, shouldn't have played. But if you're quality and you play for England, you're probably named Root, Stokes, Broad, and Anderson. That's about it, isn't it? So
true. Ollie Pope.
3. It grates on me as a clubby myself to see people getting out to off spin. I just think no one right-handed should be getting out to off spin with any regularity. Get down the pitch, sweep it, stop getting caught at short leg. It was really annoying. Like you look at his numbers at the Oval, 99 quoted earlier. Just he is class, he is decent, but stop getting out to off spin. It's embarrassing.
Have you got him in your squad for the West Indies, Pope? Because I've not got him in.
I have, because for a backup, as much as a backup keeper. So he's my second keeper.
Oh, right. Interesting. Who have we got next? Josh Butler.
6. He dropped a couple of clangers.
He's 6. He's got 107 runs at 15.
Yeah, but the stand, he top scored in the first dig. The rear guard, the rear guard in, was it the third test when he batted for about 6 hours?
And he stood on his stumps.
He did, but he stood up and played an innings he hasn't really played before. I'm biased. He's my favourite player, so he's probably got bumped up 1 or 2. Seeing Billings conduct himself, chat and behind the bowlers and all that what we want to see as sort of fans made me realise that probably his time is up in the tests, and probably Billings' time is up in the tests too, because we're probably all over folks. But probably got an extra mark or 2 for being my favourite.
Chris Wokes.
2. He can't bowl abroad. We all know that. He shouldn't be there.
Not Owen. I keep getting you mixed up, you two. Brandon, you love Chris Wokes, didn't you? You were loving him at the start of the series.
He's to me, he's one of the most talented cricketers in the world. So
in England,
anywhere he goes, Chris Wokes is a bowler.
Right, who have we got next? Mark Wood.
Give him an 8. Absolutely. For reasons discussed earlier, ran in, bowled with heart in his sleeve. Expensive at times. There was a few times we went around the park a little bit. I think he was just bowling to plans. He was told bowl short, a lot. He can bowl full. He can bowl that. The one where he nicked off Labuschagne was quality. Played with his heart in his sleeve. Got some handy runs. Probably got more runs than half the batters as well. But I'll give him an 8. Player of the series for me.
Yeah, I think he was picked England's player. Stuart Broad.
7. Broad should have played in the first game. Didn't. That was a mistake. Played with his heart in his sleeve. Bowled good areas. Did exactly what you expect from Stuart Broad. It just makes me sad about his batting because I was there when Broad got that 100 with Trot against Pakistan, and he can bat, and he's a walking wicket now, and that's a shame because he's miles better than that. So I'll give Broad a 7.
Jimmy.
6. You get what they basically played him out. They knew they know what Jimmy's about. They saw him off. He didn't pick up. I haven't got the stats, but he didn't pick up that many wickets.
He got 8 wickets at 23s, but I agree with you there. You're just seeing him off, aren't you?
They were seeing him off. His economy was about 2, I guess 2.2, something like that. But yeah, he didn't quite, and in the last game, you look at that pitch, we talked about the millimeters and all that jazz, but he would have taken wickets in the last game on that deck.
He got a little niggle, they said, Ian. Now, if I'm Jimmy and I'm looking out and I'm seeing that wicket, I'm thinking, the physio, get me on that field. I'm going to feel my boots here. This is going to be my last test in Australia.
I think the last statement you made there, the last test in Australia, I mean, we don't know how bad it was. He has had problems with calf injuries. I think I was at Sedbergh watching Lanks play Durham when he did it first time up, and it has been a problem ever since. KP had a problem with his calf, and it ended up finishing him really, and his ego as well, but his calf mainly. So it can be if it is the calf, it can be problematic. So it's a shame that he because we were saving him and Broad with the pink ball, weren't we, for the second test, and how well did that go? So it is disappointing. His economy rate was actually 1.79, so that's pretty tight stuff. But I think you're right. I think they did see him out, because they thought, well, we've got some lads that we can get some. He'll have his spell. We'll see him off, and then we'll get the runs off these other lads.
You look at the bowl. I've got the bowling averages. You got Wood, Broad, Jimmy, Robinson. They're all averaging like 25, 26. Jimmy 23. We've actually bowled okay, haven't we? But then when you look at the stats through the series with the Australian, but they've declared how many times did they declare in the series? They were always controlling the game, and we got wickets. When I said earlier about Smith, Labuschagne, they all didn't really have a great series, did they? Owen, Warner. So the bowlers have actually, when you look at the stats, they've actually done okay.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing. Apart from the last Test match, I don't think we really have a go at the bowling. The bowling's been decent. They've done their job. They've done what expected. I also understand that the ACB had a rule to their groundsmen to try and have more equal wickets between bat and ball to make it a more competitive series. So that's obviously helped us, rather than traditional series where it's been more of a flat track. But yeah, I think it goes back to what the squad must be thinking. That fact that they've gone out there in hard conditions, done their job, and the batsmen can't even do not even like 10% of what's expected. So it's I really feel for those guys. They've been out there in the heat. They've been getting peppered by the ball as well, which they should be sheltered from that stuff. None of that's happened.
So. We got one man left for you, Rob. One man. England's phantom. I'll call him a phantom spinner. Jack Leach.
4, 3 or 4, 3. He got torn apart, didn't he, in the first game? In one of the digs, he got, was it five 4 or
He
5.
got 4 at Sydney, didn't he? Second innings, but it was the game had gone.
And he did in the drawn game. He did get a beautiful 20. But he was a bit of a laughing stock. They just, the complete opposite of Jimmy. See Jimmy off, wait for Leach to bowl some flans and absolutely tee off into him. He was going at like 8s, 9s or whatever it was in one of the games. And I just think India, absolutely, take him to India, take him to the subcontinent. Yeah, decent. But I think maybe we need to look elsewhere for our first spinner, anywhere else other than the subcontinent where he plays my second spinner.
He was my highlight of the series anyway, Brandon. Signing someone's head, Jack Leach.
Yeah,
I think it was at Sydney.
There's a positive in being bold, eh?
Well, there you go.
I saw Mike Brown in the chat.
The other highlight,
you never know.
The fisherman in the chat, he doesn't like cricket. He only likes 2020 cricket, so this probably so, isn't it? From my other highlight of the series, Ian, I don't know if anyone's got a highlight of the series because it is pretty low. Was it the robot camera when it had the headband on?
Oh yeah, that was really good.
Classic.
Yeah, in fact, I think it was bowling in the nets. We should have checked its passport, its parentage, see if we could get it in. No, it was good. It was good. Yeah, I mean there were a few highlights, and some of them were. I mean, Bairstow's ton was probably the highlight from an England fan's point of view. England's ton, should I say, because we didn't get any others, did we?
England's one and only.
Pretty poor showing.
Rich, you didn't ask me about Bairstow, did you?
Did I not ask you Johnny Bairstow? Oh, no, because I think I went for... Yeah, Johnny Bairstow then. What are you giving him?
6.5. 6.5. One, good knock. Good energy. Does he... I mean, I haven't picked him for the West Indies, unfortunately, which might go against the grain. But, good battling 100.
Is that because of his injury you've not picked him?
No, I just feel like he's a bit like Ramprakash. We've given him that many goes. He's had that many times go away, come back, go away, come back. He's got what? He's got to be 30 something now. I'm making room. He's dead wood for me, I'm afraid.
I did say, I think at the start of the series, this would have been his last series, and I wouldn't pick him again. But I think it all depends what we want to do with him. I know you've got him; he's got the gloves in. I think this will be his last hurrah because we can't keep going back to Johnny Bairstow. They said he's tightened up his technique because he kept getting bowled through that massive gate, didn't he? But he's got it all to prove for me. He's batty. Look, he got one decent score there, but can he do it on a regular basis? Can he average 40 plus going forward now?
Well, I flip-flopped slightly on him because I wouldn't have had him in. He did well to get in the squad. He was I think of the top 7 batsmen prior to him being left out by England. His record was the worst, but he did show some fight and some quality in that 100 that he got, which maybe that's shadowing my thoughts slightly, but we didn't see any of that quality and that fight in the rest of the players for the majority of the tour. And
is that how he plays his best cricket though? When he's got something to prove?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'd like if he doesn't get picked in the West Indies, then that's pretty good because when we're doing the little bits to camera for Twitter, I always call him David Bairstow, so I have to retake it. That's just my age. So if he's left out, that's a bonus for me. Listen, he's from what Paul Fairbrace was saying and what he's done with the bat. It might be worth a go in the Windies there. But moving forward, you've got to pick your best keeper, haven't you? Really, which I think we all agree is Stokes.
Right, quickly fly through your ratings, Ian.
Right, I've got them written down in no particular order. I've got Hamid 1. I feel sorry for him as well. I think he might, if he has a good county season, whatever that is these days, and played in the subcontinent with Graham Thorpe, who was a brilliant player of spin. I think whereas the bowling coaches have done a good job with our bowlers in Australia. I think the batting coaches will have a massive part to play when we go in the subcontinent. So Hamid 1, Burns 1, Milan 6, 5 for his batting, 1 for his bowling. Root, I've given him 6.5. Again, no tons. It's conversion rate, but he did get 300 odd runs there. Stokes, he wasn't fit, and for that I've given him a couple of extra marks because he was battling on. I think he was poorly used. I think they gambled with his bowling, this silly enforcer role when he should have been bowling at top of off, not round the wicket halfway down the track. But I've given him a 6.5. Bairstow, I've given him an 8 because I think it's an amazing comeback because I'd written him off. And for the reasons I've mentioned there. Crawley, 8 catches, only 4 behind Butler, who got 12. I've given him a 7 because of the old green shoots, Richard. I know you like that comment. And I'm looking around.
He looks good, doesn't he? He looks good.
He's he got a big score previously. I think if he can get a run of games and get some confidence in a slightly better side, you look around. I know you're talking about Sibley and going back in.
Would you be opening with him though? Because he's always looks like he's going to nick off to me.
Well, they all do, don't they? But yeah, no, I think you're right. Listen, yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I don't know what he was saying about, I'm going to score 100. Nobody ever. No, nobody does that. You know, that's just crazy talk. So that was silly. But he did. Of them all, of the Hamids, the Burns, the people that are opening, I think he's going to get a run of games, and I think we'll see what he can do in the West Indies. Butler, a poor tour for him. Again, I feel sorry for him. He did take some great catches, but there were several drops, averaging 15. I know he dug in, which I like to see, proper Test cricket. But I've given him a 4. Pope, his best game was probably as sub-keeper, and he doesn't even get those catches in Wisden. It goes down as sub. Yeah. So that's unlucky. But I've given him 2. Wokes, I've given him 4. Economy rate, not too bad. Again, he's very much, he's a dependable guy. He's obviously great to have around the camp, very professional. And I think he's always going to be somebody that might be in or around the Test team. But I've given him 4. Leach, 3.5. His economy rate was pretty poor because he did go around the park. He averaged 12 with the bat. We know he just, sticks around towards the end.
Apart from that one horrendous shot.
90 yards.
That shot was awful. But there's been several, hasn't there? This is the thing. I think somebody mentioned, it might have been Rob, you have to value your wicket. Whatever standard of cricket you play, I know 2020 is different, or if you're chasing the game, but Test cricket, where you can bat as long as you like, a 5-day game of finishing games in 3 days, you have to value your wicket. And that was just crazy. Butler did it, didn't he? Early on, was getting out. They've all done it, So it's been dreadful. Billings, I've given him a 5. It's interesting. I mean, you're probably right. He's probably at the bottom of the queue with regards to keeping. But could he be your wild card captain that we're looking for?
No.
If we've mentioned Alex Lees, if we've mentioned other people, he has done some captaincy. Robinson, I've given him 5.5. His fitness is a problem, and some absolutely awful dismissals with the bat. I know he's there to bowl, but he seems like he's one of these that's always got something wrong with him. So I'm not sure about that. And he's a bit too much of that on the field. I've left him out. The West Indies. I think he needs to get fit. Wood, I've given him an 8. Good economy rate, 17 at 26. the highest wicket taker of the series, and he didn't play in every test. Broad 6.5. Again, his batting's crap. Yeah, he bowled quite well. Less than 3 economy rate, 13 wickets, so it was the second highest. And then old Jimmy 7.5. But I think they had a game plan, as we said before, to how to play him, and that was good captaincy. Although what I didn't think was good captaincy of Pat Cummins was to put Khawaja up the order, because he got 2 tons batting where he was. And I know they were looking for an opener because there was Harris and there was this, that, and the other. Smith's not done a great deal. They could have put Smith up to open. I mean, really, they could have reversed the batting order, couldn't they, and still won? But you know what I mean?
Start should have opened.
Yeah, it'd have been exciting for the neutral. But I just think sometimes captains think, oh, he's got runs, we'll get him to open. I know he's opened before, but he was on he'd not played for 2.5 years, whatever it was. I just think that was a big mistake. I think that was naive captaincy. But it didn't cost him the game, and he'll learn from it. But that's just my view.
Yeah, I think if you rock up on that first morning and he says, there you go, you can go in and open on that wicket, you're thinking, oh, cheers. Thanks for that.
And you're
Right,
not
Owen,
turn it down here.
what we got for your ratings? Much different than the other two? Probably not.
I'll cut the negative ones because it's been quite downer this pod, I think. So just the positive ones. I got Wood at 8, like similar reasons for Ian, summed up really nicely. Anderson 8. I'm a big fan of low economy rates. I think that's the way to do it. That's the best way for the next generation to watch that and learn. That's how you bowl in any level of cricket. Broad 7. I disagree with his batting performance, because I think that he is suffering from PTSD from that being hit in the face. So I'm going to give him some leeway that he's unfortunately scared of being out there. And then also Milan at 7. I think he did given what was going around him, he did all right, because it can't be easy to bat that way. And also given Lawrence an 8, because apparently for the drinks his cordial ratio was top notch. So the league that's really important.
I like that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Me, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, you go for it.
I feel like you can't miss out the negativity, because that's all the Ashes was for an England perspective, wasn't it? I've got Rory Burns 1, Hamid 1, Crawley 6. I think him and Bairstow and Wood are the only positives really we can take away from the Ashes. Milan 5, Root 6, Stokes 5, because I think you can't look much further than the game that we did get a result from. He got matching 50s, didn't he? And him and Bairstow both got scores in both innings. Pope a -2. Yeah, it's just he annoyed me more than the openers. I think what Ian said, he only didn't get a -3 because he kept well as a sub, and that's what he should have been. He's just a sub the whole series, but never mind. Bairstow 9, Butler 3, Billings 5, Wokes 4, but he's still one of the most talented players in the world. Jack Leach 3. I've got Mark Wood 8, Ollie Robinson 6, Stuart Broad 7, and James Anderson 6.
I think the point you make, Brandon, there about Pope, and we've all mentioned it, is that the expectation is so high, because you look at him and he's got it all. He looks such a super player. I think there are flaws in his technique, but it's the expectation, and I think that's why we're slating him here, because more is expected of him.
I disagree with that. I don't think there's many flaws in his technique. I think there's flaws in the way he approaches his innings. I think that he doesn't have the right mentality of when to just stay put and when just to leave the ball outside your off stump. There's going to be times when it's over-pitched or... Yeah, there's balls that are bowled on good lengths that you shouldn't be doing anything with other than leaving. And I think that Australia had a brilliant attack, don't get me wrong, but Mitchell Starc is always going to give you a bad ball. every bowler, if you make them bowl the whole day, they're going to get tired and you're going to get the bad balls to put away. You're going to get them when they try and pitch up that little bit further to get you to play and it's a half volley. I think that where Ollie Pope really annoys me is the fact that I know for a fact that he has probably one of the best techniques of any of the England players in the squad and out of the squad. But my problem is just his absolute lack of knowledge on how to construct and build an innings. I think that's where my problem is with him. But yeah, my player of the series overall was Scott Boland. By the way, I just wanted to put that out there because I've just never seen anything like it. Like it's obviously I didn't really get to see much Glenn McGrath because I was 5 when the 2005 Ashes series was going on, or 6. But I think that the way that he's come into Test cricket and he just looked unplayable. You have Cummins in the squad, you have Stark in the squad, you have Nathan Lyon, and Scott Boland outshone them all. And I think that...
you think, Brandon? Josh Hazlewood played 1 Test match, didn't he? And he's probably their best bowler, standout bowler.
And you look at the bowlers, they had Jai Richardson, who looks unbelievable. I'm sure next time we go and play an Ashes out there, he'll probably be one of the mainstays in their attack when we go back out there. And you have Josh Hazlewood, who hasn't hardly bowled a ball, and I think that also shows that England have got pretty good depth bowling wise. I think we'll all agree that, especially when you have players like Archer and Cast back from fitness, things like that. We have plenty of bowling options, but I think so do Australia, and I just think Australia. That's where the difference is. I think Australia's depth and what they had available to them, they could pick horses for courses, couldn't they? But we couldn't because we sent the Lions home. So that's another.
And they just slotted in, Brandon, didn't they? They brought these people, even Mike and Lisa, and exactly. It's not rapid, but they bowl. They know their game and they bowl to their strengths and they exercise their skills.
Spot on.
Most important question: what are we giving Graham Thorpe and his technique with a mobile phone? Filming people, come on.
Sacked in the morning.
Is he gonna? Do you reckon he'll fall on his sword? Do you reckon he's going, Rob? Do you reckon that's him out?
I think so. I just can't fathom why he's filmed that, and then it's you film it, and then it's got out into the media. Makes no sense. I don't have a grudge with the players going out for beers after a series. I mean, we do it, don't we? After a game, we have a beer with the oppo, and that is what it is. But Thorpe leaking it like that, it's just amateur. So it might be an easy out for him, perhaps.
Right, so I've got Terry's rating she's given to me. She's somehow given Hamid a 1 and Burns a 2. I'd probably say both a 1. She's given Zach.
What'd you give Archer?
Hey?
What'd you give Archer?
He's I've not seen him on here, but I did see him. He's in the West Indies having a little run around, Brandon, today. He's out there with the 2020 squad, just getting a bit of sun on his back. She's given Zach Crawley a 6. David Milan, 5.5. Joe Root, 4.5. Stokes, 4. Pope, 3. Bairstow, 8.5. Wood, 7.5. Wokes, 3.5. Robinson, 6.5. Broad, 7. Jimmy, an 8. And Jack Leach has got a 4. So that's Terry's. We won't bother with mine because they're basically the same as everyone else. I've given Burns and Hamid and Pope all a 1, and that's just for getting on the plane. Well done, lads. So quickly, we'll do our West Indies squad in a minute, but quickly, Ian's got his little bit about Jonathan Agnew's comments. I don't know if anyone's seen them in the chat on the BBC website about his new plan for the county championship.
Yeah, it was a little bit odd. I mean, I know he's been a bit of a voice against the 100, and you would think he's a bit of a traditionalist, but he's come out with an idea that's based on the 100 in the fact that it's going to be those 8 teams and 2 others. What they're going to be called, I've got no idea. And he's suggesting a 10-ball competition, a draft system like the 100, where the best players are going to play against the best players. There was going to be fewer games for the counties. I don't know when all these games are going to be squeezed in with the 50 over competition, the 100, the T20, county games, and this new system. But there are going to be fewer games with the counties. They're going to be a feeder league for this new format, whatever it's going to be called, and it's going to be 3-day cricket. And I'm not too sure how that's going to prepare people for either this new sort of strata that he's wanting to bring in, and it's going to be a longer format. It just seems a little bit. We know things need to change, although if we actually look at it, we've won lots of Test cricket and been one of the best Test cricket nations in the world when we've not messed around with the county championship. So it can't necessarily be the county championship that's the problem, because it's produced Test match winning players in the past. So maybe we revert to what we had before. That's obviously not going to happen, because obviously these white ball slap and tickle formats are money spinners, and it's getting more people into the game, and I get that. So there's a fine balance, but I think it just seems a bit of a crackpot idea. I don't know if you've been drinking with Nathan Lyon when he came out with this, but I just think, I don't know what anybody else thinks. It just seems a bit of a daft system, because I think the traditions and the history of the counties, you can't just say thanks very much, lads, because young players need a pathway. And I know quite a lot about the Lancashire pathway. They've moved to interleague cricket from district cricket. They've got more community coaches and more engagement. And how are those young people? You've got to spread that base really wide, because the next Ben Stokes or Joe Root aren't necessarily going to come from the narrow sort of elitist approach that they've taken in the past. And there's got to be opportunities for these players coming through. Yes, we want the cream will always rise to the top, and it's how we prepare them for Test cricket. But I think Aggers is way off the mark with this. I don't know what anybody else.
So they're going to do a draft. Is that what I'd led to believe, like the 100?
Saying, yeah.
So where are these other two teams coming from that he's on about? Are these going to be two county sides, or? No
idea. I think they're going to be like a Manchester Originals. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be I don't know, Norwich Nomads or something. I've no idea. I mean, I think things need to change.
It's always going to be hard when you've got 18 counties and they're going to look after number one, aren't they? And they're obviously they get a cut from the 100, don't they? I don't know how much. How much does each county get?
Is it 1.5 million?
1.5 million. I thought it was something like that. So it's always going to be hard, because they're looking after. I just think I don't know what you guys think. I just think it's when the red ball cricket's played.
Yeah,
that's the main thing.
It's the level of pitches, isn't it? If you look into even English summers in terms of Test cricket, it's very rare that you see both teams get near or over 300.
If you've got promotion and relegation, Brandon, and say you're going to trying to win a title or whatever, you've got a game near the end of the season, you're at home, and you're going to need a result. You're going to produce a result wicket, aren't you?
But that's where I think that there has to be some sort of involvement in terms of, if a pitch is clearly behaving the way it shouldn't on day one or day two, then the ECB have to start getting more involved with the preparations of these pitches. If they care about red ball cricket in England at all, we need to make it very clear that the standards of the pitches that we're playing county championship on is balanced. And the reason why red ball cricket's been left behind in the county championship as well is because not many fans come through the gates to watch it. And part of the reason for that, I'm sure, is because you're not watching competitive cricket. You're watching teams get blown out in 2 sessions, and it's not really a good competition between bat and ball. And I think if you have more balanced pitches, you're going to get more exciting matches, which can only lead to more money coming in from red ball cricket. And then later down the line, you'll see the benefits of it for England.
What's the, I don't know if you know this, Owen, what would be the sort of average score down at Chelmsford? Because it's a tough place to bat down there, isn't it?
Yeah, about 300. is pretty decent down at Chelmsford. My main concern for county cricket is not so much producing England players. They will produce 20 odd players over a generation that can play Test match cricket. I constantly worry it's not a national game. There are huge parts of our country, like Liverpool. I know it's part of Lancashire, but the Liverpoolians really identify Lancashire. I'm not too sure. Exeter, another one. Newcastle hasn't got a team. I find this really, really odd that every time we talk about making the game better, we make it geographically smaller. So, like, you guys are interesting. You guys live in Suffolk, you know. Do you actually?
See, that's interesting. So you're a PE teacher, Rob. Do you?
Yes, mate.
Is cricket part of? Do you have a cricket team there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fun enough, I push it as much as I can. We do it in lessons, and we enter the Suffolk school stuff and fair occasionally. Try and feed as many of them into Haverhill Cricket Club as we can as well. So yeah, absolutely. But it's because I love cricket. Whether or not other schools do that,
Sure.
if they haven't got teachers there who don't love it, then they don't tend to enter.
Well, I've quite recently come out of secondary school, and I played 2 matches in my 5 years of being at school, and the level of team that I had was, I think there was 2 of us who actually played cricket for a club, and the rest of them really were just the normal people who would play any sport just because they were playing sport. So we got battered in both games by 10 wickets and 160 runs in 2 2020 matches, to put that out there. So I think that there are definitely parts of the country where there isn't hardly any cricket being played in schools as well. You tend to see a lot more lessons, like girls being taught cricket actually rather than boys. Boys tend to, especially where I live, boys tend to play softball in the summer. Girls play the sort of cricket, and there wasn't hardly any, as I said, there wasn't hardly any cricket on at all throughout my whole school. And I know for a fact that some of the schools around me in Colchester, things like that, are the same. And that's surprising when you look at Essex and the fact that Essex are doing pretty well in all formats at the moment. And we have some good young cricketers in there. But I think that's more so because of the club cricket rather than what we're doing in schools. I think that we do have to do much more cricket in schools and try and push that much more.
See, I went to school in the 90s. I played at secondary school. I played 1 game of cricket, Rob. 1 game of cricket the whole time I was there. The only way I got into cricket, I love cricket. I knew someone, and they knew someone at Saffron Walden. So when I was about 13, 14, that's how I got into it. You know, it wasn't through schools cricket. Played football, obviously, rugby. 1 game of cricket. That was it.
Yeah. As I said, it's just I love cricket, so I push it. I do girls. I'm doing a girls team who into the under the Lady Taverners under 15s. I've got a little side there. Haverhill Cricket Club's got a girls section now, which is great. It's just people. It's just getting people who care enough.
How many did you get down there on a Friday? Because I've seen down there, I've been past there on a Friday night when they used to do the kids, and it was absolutely heaving with kids.
Yeah, I coach under 13s actually, mate. We get about 80 under, so between sort of like 7-year-olds to 15, we get sort of 80. We put sides out, sort of under 11s, under 13s, under 15s, and girls as well, which is great.
We could talk all night, couldn't we, about what's wrong and where we go, but we move on and we'll quickly give our squads for the West Indies. I'll quickly go through mine. Obviously, I'm having Joe Root still as captain. Ben Stokes vice captain. I've got Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, Mark Wood, Johnny Bairstow, Zach Crawley, Alex Lees is in mine. He'll be one of my openers. Ben Folkes, Mahmood from Lancashire. I see Ian's smiling down the bottom there because I've also got Matt Parkinson. He's in mine. He's my only spinner. I'm not taking 2 spinners to the West Indies. We're playing 3 Test matches. We don't want Don Bess out there mixing up the drinks. Joe Clark, I've got him. I think he's obviously played for the Lions. He was at Worcester, left under a bit of a cloud. He's now at Notts. I think Dan Lawrence, he's probably stock's gone up because I always think of someone when they're not in the team, it's probably benefited him more than anybody this winter that he's not actually played. So I'd really be disappointed if the first test in the West Indies and he's not in. I know Brandon's going to disagree with me. I've gone for, if he's fit, I think he is fit now, Sam Curran. He's going to bat for bat for me at number 8 because I think we need to have a little bit of that. The tail's too long. Bowls a bit of left arm. As long as they don't give him the new ball again, I'll be happy because he's not a new ball bowler. I think we all know that. I've got Dom Sibley. I've got your guy. Is it Bohannon from Lancashire?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit either Josh Bohannon or Liam Livingston. I'm not sure. Livingston maybe as a wild card. And then I did have Ollie Robinson. I'm going to take him out. And is it Brandon Case is his name?
Cass.
Bryden Cass, isn't it?
Bryden Cass. He's me number 17. So a few newbies in there. And
Nice.
that's mine. So we go to you now, Brandon.
I've got Tom Haynes. He is 23 years old, opener, left-hand bat from Sussex. 1,176 runs at 47 last year in the county
I
championship.
think I was reading a piece on the BBC website. They mentioned him. There's about 6 or 7 that they.
I have got to say that I did write my squad 2 days before they put that up there. I just want to.
Okay. Yeah. You sure?
I've got Jake Libby, who I've been going about for many a week. He's 29, so he's a little bit older, but he's averaged 56.57 in the county championship last year. Zach Crawley, once again, he's 23, so you've got looking at the future here as well. I think that you can give them maybe a bit of a longer stretch of rope to play and just get bedded in a little bit. I've got Joe Root, Dawid Malan, Ben Stokes, Johnny Bairstow, who's going to be my second. He's going to be my emergency gloves if need be. Dan Lawrence, Ben Folkes as my keeper.
Yeah.
I've then got. I did write down Dom Bess, but I agree with you that we don't need another spinner, especially as
I
I've
think
got
it's just
Lawrence
wasting
and
the
Root.
place in the squad.
Yeah, spot on. So I'm going to take him out. I'm going to put in Cast if he's fit, but I know he's had some injury problems. If not, I may take another batsman in Tom Abel. Is it from Somerset? Yeah. Then I've got Matt Parkinson as my spinner. I've got Craig Overton, Ollie Robinson, Mark Wood, Stuart Broad, James Anderson, and Saqib Mahmood. The reason I've got Overton in there, I looked at the last 3 test series that have been played in West Indies, and all the bowlers that have taken the most wickets have been the taller ones, which don't get as much side-to-side movement. You had Ishant Sharma took a heap load of wickets for India. You have Lakmal for Sri Lanka, and Jason Holder takes pretty much the large majority of West Indies wickets. So I think it looks like you're going to get more benefit from varied bounce than you are some movement side to side. And yeah, I've just got a couple of, and my coach choice that I would have for the series, I would do everything I could if I was the ECB to try and get Ricky Ponting as my next coach.
Actually, he was. I don't think we've actually spoke about this, Brandon, but if Silverwood goes, and I don't think he'll go before the West Indies tour because I think it's only 6 weeks. Yeah. I would go for Ricky Ponting. That's who I'd go for. I know Gary Kirsten's been mentioned. I'd go for Ponting.
If not, I'd go for Jai Wardener because they're both pretty well, I think, looked at as in terms of coaches throughout the world cricket. And what they do know is they know how to bat in the large majority of conditions, don't they? And they know Test cricket like the back of their hand. So they were just 2 names I'd put down as possible coach options going forward.
Like it. Right. Owen, who have you got for us?
I'm a bit disappointed myself. I wanted to go the Brandon route and pick a brand new team, but actually I've gone quite traditional by accident. So I've got Lees, Root, Crawley, Sibley, Yates, Wood, Broad, Folkes, Anderson, Bess, Butler, Wokes. I put down a second spinner, but I can't think who. Just because I don't know why. I watch a lot of the West Indian domestic cricket on YouTube, and some of the pitches do spin, so we might be surprised if we caught short and not having a spinner there. Milan, Bairstow, Stokes, and then I've got to have one Essex player other than Folkes, who is a Colchester boy. I've gone for Sam Cook because I think he's good enough, but I felt bad not having one.
I did have Sam Cook in.
He's not fast enough.
No, I did have him in, and that's what I thought. I think he's a good bowler.
Yeah, but Pim and Porter are brilliant county bowlers, but not.
Yeah, I think
they're 10 miles an hour too slow.
Yeah, Jamie Porter's. If he was going to get picked, he would probably been picked a couple of years ago. When he's probably suffered.
12th man a lot, wasn't he? He was 12th man for a couple of games in a row.
He's probably suffered because Anderson's kept going. If Jimmy had retired 2 or 3 years ago, I think Jamie Porter would have actually got to go.
Yeah, well, also they picked that massive squad last summer, didn't they? With the COVID squad, that double-sized one. If you're not in that, you've got no chance of getting into. So I think his time's gone.
Right, Rob.
Yep. Okay. So I'll go through the ones that we.
How many Worcester players have you got?
No, just one, mate. Just one. With a nod to a former player. I'll go through the ones we've already picked quickly. What I have done is I've gone balance-wise. I've got 10 batters and 6 bowlers. So I want to give all the batters a go, just because I'm not necessarily the chief selector. So I've got Crawley, Milan, Root. I'm giving Stokes the tour off because I think he needs it. I've got Pope, which most people I think have got. I've got Folkes as the wiki that's a nap. And then I'm going Livingston, who I'd have taken to Australia. I just think he's got that heart. I think he's got that care.
Yeah, I did say that. I think he'd have done well out there because he'd have stood up to him.
He'd have stood up to him, absolutely right. And he's like that $1 million sort of player. And I just in the T20s, I know it's not the same.
How many spinners have you got in your team?
1 plus a bit of Livingston.
He's going to be your second spinner. Yeah, good shout.
I've gone Libby for Worcester, 1,075 runs at 56, as quoted earlier. I'm going Josh Bohannon, 150 runs at 53, and he bowls a bit. I'm going Alex Lees with the potential he'll open and potentially captain. And Joe Clark will go because he's about next come off the rank, pretty much one of the best players to have not played anything for England apart from Lions. So I've gone with 10 batters and six bowlers, and they are Anderson, Broad, Wood, Robinson, as prescribed. I've gone Cook, looking at the numbers, 58 wickets at 14. And then my spinner, if we can't get Harmer because he's not qualified yet, then I'm going left field. I'm going Amir Verdi because he's a proper spinner.
Well, Harmer's turned down England, isn't he?
Say again?
Harmer's turned down England. He's refused to get his passport.
Yeah, which is a shame. The other one that I don't know if any of you statisticians picked up on is Beddingham from Durham, who could play for us, but looks like he's going to go with he's a coal packer, but he got 1,029 runs at 60 and a half. He could play for us or Saffers, but it looks like he's going to go with them. So that's my squad.
Right. Now the last man, Ian. What have you got for us?
Well, it's interesting just to say about the coaching scenario. I can't see there being a change. So I think they fly out on Saturday. I don't know. They fly out this week. They're out there, but I think it starts, isn't it, this week?
Is that for the T20s?
Yeah, I think that's the T20s.
Collingwood's taking that, isn't he?
Yeah. The Silverwood situation, I can't see there being a change before the West Indies, but I think somebody mentioned it earlier. We need the return of the national selector or selectors. Yeah. It worked from 1899 or whatever it was when Lord Hawke and W.G. Grace was doing it, and H.W. Bainbridge, the Warwickshire skipper. But I'm not saying we should get Ed Smith back, but the old Ed Smith role. I think the difficulty that you've got where you've got a head coach and
just don't come on screen,
and where you've got a head coach and the captain as your selectors, I think the interaction then with the players is challenging. Because if you're going to have a bit of a chip at your coach or your captain, not saying you should, but it happens, it could influence their selection decisions. And I don't think that they're there to lead.
I said earlier, Ian, you're in a tough spot if you want to go and talk to your coach, and he's the selector as well. Yeah,
I think they need to. I think they need to divorce those two roles and let the coach take the pressure off the coach and the captain, get them to coach and captain, and get. I'm sure that they could do it so that they can have an input. But there we go. So going through my, I've gone a tad traditional, but slightly left field with a couple of these. So bear with me. I've gone Root as captain, Stokes as vice captain, Wokes wicket keeper, irrespective of what I said earlier. Bairstow as your wicket-keeper batsman, Milan, Crawley, Josh Bohannon, and again, a lot of this is influenced by a lot of the county cricket that I saw this year. I think Bohannon was outstanding. He was certainly Lancashire's Player of the Year because I was at that dinner and he deserved that award. Phil Salt. I'm going to open with Phil Salt and Crawley. Now, Phil Salt can wicket keep. Again,
is he moved? Is he moved to Lancashire?
he is.
There
It's
you
not
go.
it's Lancashire. No, it's not
There
that.
you go. That's
I've
why he's
always
there.
liked Phil Salt, and I think he's an up-and-coming player. And if we're looking for somebody to get on with it as well, I think he could be the man.
I think he's out for the T20. He's in the T20 squad, isn't he, out there?
Yeah. He's more. He is more known for white ball, but he does play the longer format. I've got Joe Clark, Dan Lawrence, Alex Lees. I think Alex Lees is a bit of a shoe-in, to be honest, because from what I'm reading, I think that's already a done deal. Interestingly, I've got Liam Dawson in as a second spinner. Again, I think he bats properly. I think he's a decent lower order bat, but he puts it there or thereabouts, and he knows his game. I've got Sak Mahmood, Parkinson, who he can't let me down now, surely, but he actually spins the ball. The thing is about Parkinson is he spins the ball. Leach doesn't spin it a great deal, does he? We've had so-called off spinners in the past who are doing this, that, and the other. But I think Parky deserves a go. And I've got Anderson, Wood, and Broad. And as I say, my starting 11s would be different in the 3 games. And I've got a starting 11 there for the first 10.
Who's your starting 11 for the first test?
Crawley, Salt, Milan, Root, Stokes, Lawrence, Bairstow, who would wicket keep, Wood, Anderson, Parkinson, Broad.
So you've got Wood still at number 8.
Yeah. But he's ahead of Anderson, Parkinson, and Broad.
One spot too low for me.
So
Up at him 7. Did you say Chris Wokes was going to be your keeper?
No,
I thought I heard you say Wokes earlier.
He said, I think he did say Wokes.
Wokes is having a rest.
As I said, Wokes, most talented cricketer in the world. There you go. He can keep.
I think Wokes can't make the tour because he's rested along with several others. But I believe he's locked in your wardrobe, isn't he?
Oh no, not there. He makes the bed, I'm afraid. He does make the bed.
No, he's a good player, but I think we need to have a look at a few. I know I've gone a little bit traditional, a bit like what Owen was saying there. If you look at that lineup, but I would change. It's time for change, we've got to get some of these lads in who've got really good numbers. I know you can't just go off numbers because it's about temperament, it's how you play, it's your technique, what opposition you're playing against, and all these factors. But there's a lot of decent cricketers in county cricket. I think county cricket has been the victim here. I think it's been slagged off, it's been blamed. I think somebody put in the chat that the counties are doing the best. I know for a fact that Lancashire are sending coaches into schools. My lad's been coaching today because he's got a coaching apprenticeship with Lancashire, and he's been coaching in schools today. He's been at the development centre this evening. So there's a lot that counties are doing in order to sort of spread the good news of the game, but also try and identify a lot of these players. We start with the interleague coaching on Saturday, and Lancashire are going to be involved in that. So I think the counties are getting a little bit too much stick, and I think the ECB need to look at the schedules, not the counties. But that's just my opinion.
We haven't won out there since 2004. I think the West Indies. So I don't think it's a shoe-in that we're going to go out there and roll them over. I think we should win the series. But
just going back to Ian's comment there, I think we do have to start picking players who are at the top of the county leaderboards, even if they've got, because in cricket, I think especially batting, I think form goes a long way in they're going to be high on confidence. All that some of these players that we've mentioned have known for the last 12 months is bagging hundreds and scoring runs on, as we've said, very favourable pitches for bowlers. So I think you look at these batsmen that we're picking to take over there. If you're averaging around 50 odd on some of the pitches that they've batted on, that's probably worth 60, 70 average in places like Australia and less known for being an absolute minefield to bat on. So. And going back to your point about Matt Parkinson, I've always looked at it and I always think that wrist spinners are more dangerous on any wicket because they get more bounce and they can cause more problems for both hand batters. If you have a finger spin, if there's a right hand left hand combination, you don't want them bowling for it to be spinning into the batsman. But I think with wrist spin, that plays less of a part, doesn't it? But
if he's going to go to the subcontinent, he needs to be he needs to be playing Test cricket now.
But he needs a captain. He needs a captain who's going to trust him as well, because I don't think Joe Root trusted. I don't think Leach is good enough, but I don't think the captain trusted him, did he? So if he's going to play Parkinson, we've got to give him a fair run in the team. Pick him and play him, and give him the chance to succeed.
I think what we've got to realise is that you should pick your spinner to take wickets. I think spinners, no matter what pitch you're playing on, they're going to be a lot of spinners are targeted to try and get the rate up by batsmen that are trying to stay in against decent seamers down the other end. I think you've got to be willing to let your spinner go for four and over, because it doesn't matter if they get wickets. I think that's what we've got to realise. If Leach gets into a team and he's controlled and he's looking really unremarkable, but he's going for 3 and over or less, what's he doing? He's not doing anything effective. I think we've got to start willing to concede more runs with our spinners, because with the purpose of taking wickets.
But it'll all come down to, and I said it before, I think when we done the preview to the Australian series, Brandon, it'll all come down to the batting. You have to put runs on the board. And if you don't put runs on the board, your bowlers are always going to struggle. So anyway, we have done an hour and 51. Just a little touch on the Women's Ashes starts on Thursday. 3 T20s, 1 Test match, 3 ODIs. I think it's a point system, isn't it, Ian? They do.
Yes, it's quite a good format that they have. They do have a point system. It's good competitive cricket as well. It's a decent standard.
I see. I can't remember her name. I'm just looking. Just chat amongst yourselves. What is her name?
Well, whilst you're looking that up, Lee Bayliss has put in the comment, I wonder if Ian's son is doing my son's development. We're all chatting actually outside the Beehive on Saturday before the dreadful game at Bolton. Jeremy was at Russell's school tonight, so probably not, because he's over this side of the county. And it's the school where Ian Bothan's lad went to.
Beth Mooney, that's her name.
Yeah. Beth Mooney,
fracture jaw in training, so she's out of the series. So she's the world's #1 T20 player. So hope she gets well soon, but that will give obviously England a bit better chance. The next show we're going to do will probably be the T20. We'll do a review of the T20s. I think there's 5. I think that starts Saturday night, 8 p.m. It's on BT Sport. But if you are watching still, if you haven't fallen asleep, hit the like button. This will be available in the morning as an audio. So if you're going to work, you're on the train or whatever, or at home and you want to listen to it, stick it in your ears. But yeah, thanks to Ian, Owen, Brandon, and a fantastic debut performance from Rob. And yeah, we will see you all soon. And hopefully the next one we do, England might have won a few games.
I'm just thinking, Richard, this show tonight has lasted longer than most England.
Well, yeah. I did see I had a little joke said to me, we should have had Novak Djokovic opening the batting because he stayed in the country longer than England's batting. So we'll see you all soon, and thanks for watching.